Thank you all for coming, and apologies for the slight delay in that we're solving a few technical issues. Presenting our press conference today is Comrade Ambassador Mchangwa, the Secretary for Information and Publicity in Zanu PF. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ambassador, for this statement. Once again, thank you. I want your indulgences on two aspects. One, I make you wait for the May Day when you should be on holiday. But like I made reference to you earlier, I just felt that you needed coffee tomorrow because tomorrow is a working day. People still need to read the newspapers and watch television. So hopefully what I'm going to talk about will make a copy for you. Then the other aspect is the technical and logistical lapses, which has made me wait for so long. But all the same, I want to ask for your indulgence whilst I proceed to our press conference. As I said earlier on, it's May Day, and Zanu PF, being a party which is rooted in the history of the people of Zimbabwe and their struggle for liberation, for freedom, is always conscious of the fact that the majority of its supporters historically were the peasants and the workers. So we have very deep respect and a lot of reverence to our working populations, which basically consists of the two classes, the peasants and the workers. It being a working day, we are focusing much more on the industrial worker, the factory worker, and the urban worker. And today, the President will be issuing a speech, a May Day speech, in line with international other organizations which have reserved this day for the workers of the world. The workers of the world unite was the slogan for many years of the Socialist International, and it still is. So we very much are conscious that it's May Day, the day of the workers, and he will be giving a speech. And because the President will be giving a speech, I won't make reference to it until it is published. I don't want to take the thunder out of his speech. So I will have a different take, which focuses much more on what the Second Republic has done. Firstly, focusing on food security, which revolves around the workers, around the peasants in the rural areas. You have seen how we have been increasing our harvest, how we have become a net wheat consumer, that we are at the point of exporting wheat, and that the rural incomes, especially a lot of horticultural products, but also in tobacco, have increased to have been the main sustenance of the economy until the advent of gold and the SME gold sector, which is again a working sector, the miners, which came in about 2019, which is now the basis of our zinc currency. But the most exciting aspect about what the President is doing now is with the industrial rejuvenation of Zimbabwe. This is where he is today, and we want you, as our conduit to the people of Zimbabwe, to say that the President knows that the mark of a modern state is the level of its urbanization. As the country develops, people move away from rural areas to urban areas because you can produce more with your hands in an industrial capacity than you can produce in a farming capacity. But more important, farming itself is becoming an industrial activity, increasingly. So the mark of progress is actually the urbanization of the country. And for a country whose industries had suffered so much, the residual Rhodesian industries, most of them were done under the colonial economy. They were subsidized by black unpaid labor force or underpaid labor force. They were in an autarkic economy, a closed economy. They were not competitive. And when we opened up the country to international trade according to WTO, most of those industries simply collapsed because they were making shorty goods at expensive prices which were not sellable on the global market. So the ultimate, of course, kiss of death was the economic collapse in 2008, which saw the real formalization of our economy, because we were now cut off from international capital, even to try to maintain those old industries. But it has not been daunting to our president to rise up to the task. And now we are at a stage where Zimbabwe is on the verge of unprecedented urbanization. And the urbanization of a country mainly derives from one major product. That product is exactly what food is to human beings. If you can't have food, you can't manage, you can't survive, you can't grow, you can't think properly. For nations, if you don't have steel, you can't modernize, period. And in the world today, if you want to see which are the most advanced states, you look at the amount of consumption per individual of steel of each population in the world. The higher the consumption kilograms of consumption per individual of steel in a country, the more advanced, the more developed it is. So you can understand the context in which the president for the past 10 years, since 2013, has been actively courting a major steel producer so that we can restore, but even multiply by a coefficient several times higher the production of steel for Zimbabwe. And today, on the Workers' Day, we are happy to say Zimbabwe is the king of sub-Saharan steel in Africa. And that is a position which even South Africa now acknowledges, that Zimbabwe has gone further in the steel production than any other African country in sub-Saharan Africa. In fact, in Africa, we only face two challenges, Egypt and Morocco. But we believe that we will soon be outstripping them, probably if we work as a region. So I want you, I delayed you, but I also ask you to watch on your websites. But I also want to say I owe you a visit. But last year I was way late. You know, a lot of things happened in my family in the last 9 months of the year about my son. And I had promised you a trip to Manise, which should have been held, you know, early in the year, because we had our conference. But it's still there now on the cards. But this is the age of the internet. This is the age you can see some of the aspects of what is going on there, not only on the website, but I want just to have a few shots so that you fully appreciate the scope and scale of what President Mnangagwa has done in order to put Zimbabwe firmly on the course of modern industrialization, which can only be sustained by the production of steel. That's Manise. Those are still the rolled steel from Manise. You can see them. This is from Manise. This is not from some small mill in the industrial site of Zimbabwe. You see those trucks? All of them, if they were near, you would see they are mostly South African and Zambian number plates. Every year, every week, more than 150 trucks are leaving Manise, carrying steel to Zambia. In fact, if you include Zambia, probably 200 trucks leave every week for those two destinations. And very soon, Mozambique is being added to the destination of Zimbabwean steel. That is the factory at Manise. It's massive. Yeah, and this is only blast furnace 1. I wanted to make you have the patience to wait for this so that you appreciate where President Mnangagwa is taking this country to. When the British wanted Rhodesia to be strong against international sanctions, they gave it RISCO, which was at Kwekwe. And it is at Kwekwe where the smelters were with the chrome that the Americans built this Kariba Dam to produce chrome from Zimbabwe for their steel industry. That's how we got the power which we want. So when you produce steel, you also generate power, because this plant has got its own steel power plant. You can see there's no smoke coming out of the Maniza. Everything is captured and recycled, and there's a power plant producing now up to 70 megawatts. They actually sell 20 to 30 megawatts to the main grid. So it's a self-contained steel plant with its own general power plant which recycles the water, not back to the Munyati, but they actually recycle the water and reuse it. So there's very economic use of water. But beyond that, they also capture the gases to produce steel, to produce power on the plant. Now, this is only phase one of probably 10 phases which are going to come, each of the same scale. This is about 600,000 tons per annum. Remember, this most was producing between 200 to 300,000 tons. And it's only phase one. There will be about 8 of these blast furnaces. The amount of resource there, we have 78 kilometers of iron ore, those hills in Maniza. Iron ore, very high grade content. So this town will be around for a long time, and I'm glad to say that the president is on the verge of directing the building of a new town in Maniza. And I don't want to preempt what the Minister of Local Government is doing, but the designs of the town are all complete. This is going to become the fastest growing industrial town in Africa, this Maniza town. I am emphasizing this because steel creates employment on a scale which no other commodity does. And this is profitable, high rewarding employment. More so when the steel being produced is not for the local market. I want to remind you that the investor whom the president has quoted is a top steel producer in the world. So he has not cut corners on technological access. This is the best possible company which can produce steel in the world. It's number 259 on the Fortune 500 companies of the world. Number 259. So in terms of technological proficiency, Zimbabwe is right there. And as a testament to what I'm saying, South African still the average ISO International Standards Organization index is 300. Zimbabwe still is at ISO 600. That's still what you see. It is as best as you can get, and it's virgin steel. It's pure, and the quality is uniform. It's not like what you get previously from scrapyard furnaces, where you get all sorts of types of secondary steel being put together and smelted. So it means for a building like this, you use steel like this, you are sure that for the next 100 years, the building stands. You have heard of building collapses. I think in South Africa we had so many Zimbabweans dying from a collapsed building. They probably used substandard steel, which then could support the structure. Now Zimbabwe is the highest quality standard of steel. And the exciting thing about it is that it is our regional neighbors who have been fully appreciative of what the president has been doing in this country. They are the ones who are the biggest buyer of our steel, our neighbors South Africa and Zambia, to process it so that we import end products from South Africa and Zambia. Yet the steel, the raw material, came from our country. So one of the reasons why I'm highlighting this is to raise the consciousness of Zimbabweans about what our president has been doing. They didn't believe him when he said, I'm going to put a steel plant. They didn't believe him. So our industries were not prepared to process the steel for downstream fabrication, which you see if coming from Maniza. Our neighbors have taken advantage of that. And this is something which on Workers' Day we want to highlight. It's real a mismanagement of policy by those who should be aware of what the national leader is doing and taking full advantage of what the national leader is doing, so that we can create downstream industries which can in turn give employment to young people. An urban town, an urban center is not a person to sleep, to domicile. It's not a dormitory. An urban center is a center to produce goods and services in factories, to sell to the local, to the regional, and to the international market. To come and work. So if you can't provide jobs from 7 to 5 for your workers, then it means you are failing as an urbanized country. And each town in the world tries to identify itself by a certain product from that town, so that it is part of the global trading market. So if your town has no products which it can produce in factories, it means you are out of the map, trading map. It means you are doing a disservice to your country. I'm saying this because the towns of Zimbabwe for the past 20 years have not been run on the basis of factories and industries. They have been run on the basis of Timba. That's why the biggest topic in Zimbabwe is land baron. We are almost turning towns into farms where people fight for land, for agriculture. No, towns are not farms. Towns are for industries. And I say it with a lot of angst, because all the mayors of the major towns who were in the opposition, none has been trying to promote industry. You never see them with an industrialist cutting a ribbon for a shop, for a factory, or for what. So it is a reflection of the fact that the towns have taken a wrong turn if they don't take advantage of the fact that we are now a major steel producer on the African continent, yet we cannot produce the widgets which then end up being the product of workers who are downstream, including SME workers. This is a matter of great regret, but it is also a condemnation of some of our city fathers, those who are in charge of towns. And at today's Workers' Day, we want the voters in these urban towns to start benchmarking the performance of their city fathers by how much they are industrializing their towns. And because the president is assured that we have the main industrial driver of industrialization of factories, still, by putting the best possible plan in Africa, his work is done. It is now the work of the people who are downstream. And I want to remind you, all investors in the world, they don't invest when they come to, they don't invest in a country. They come and invest in a local district, in a locality, either in a city or in a town or somewhere else where there is urbanization. So an investor doesn't look for state house, he looks for a mayor, because they are no property factory, which is a factory for one bus. So the duty of the mayors of this country is on Workers' Day to be reminded that they are there to save the towns which they are by creating factories in industries where the workers can be employed between 7 to 5, so that young people can apply their skills which they have learned to produce quality goods for the global market. That is the only purpose of a mayor in a town, to produce goods and services which can be sold on the global marketplace, regional marketplace, and the local marketplace. This is not borne out by the mayors who have been in charge of our nations, of our national urban management. And I've a lot of reserved anger too. Just a few days ago, you saw in the newspaper the mayor of Blawan, David Coulter. What was he up to? He's now dabbling in installing chiefs, getting into the politics of trying to make Matabeleland feel like it's a different region from Zimbabwe. He is elected to make Bulawayo a great seat. He forgets that role. He is with the Bulelani something. And we have chiefs according to the constitution. He is creating a king. He is there as the white great anthropologist, to recreate the Ndebele kingdom by invoking that Bulelani is a king of the Ndebele. And you saw the reaction from our Minister of Local Government against this intrusion by the mayor of Bulawayo. But what is his task? Can you believe it? I met him a few weeks ago at State House. I said to Mr. Colton, you come from a town called Bulawayo. It is now known as a town of kings and queens and arts. But historically, in modern terms, Bulawayo was known as an industrial seat. What used to happen to Bulawayo was that steel would come from Kwekwe, and the foundries and dyeing machines in Bulawayo would turn that steel into products which would drive the national railways of Zimbabwe, the national railways of Botswana, the national railways of Zambia, the national railways of the DRC. Bulawayo was the kingdom of modern industrialization, heavy industry. We had huge factories, some of them I've got the memories. Zeko, we have JB Connolly. These were giant factories producing goods and locomotives and wagons for the global, for the regional market. Zimbabwe was right there. I even remember when I was a diplomat in Brussels, one of the leading steel locomotive companies of Europe called Bourgeois Nivel. It came to establish a factory in Bulawayo. And the workers of Bulawayo, they were at the forefront of the nationalist revival of Zimbabwe. When you talk of the birth of ZAPU and ZANU, you start to go back to the ANC, which came from South Africa. But it came to implant itself on the Railway Workers Union. And our leader, our national figure, our leader, Joshua Nkomo, whose picture is there, he cut his teeth as a trade unionist leader of the workers of Bulawayo, because it was the most advanced city in Zimbabwe in terms of modern industrialization. So this is the tradition of Bulawayo as an industrial city specializing in the downstream fabrication of steel to make the products which would then end up being in agriculture, implements in railway rolling stock, in electricity transmission, and in many other widgets, including the car industry, which later, of course, collapsed. So this is the tradition of Bulawayo. So I asked Mr. Colton, I said, Mr. Colton, you are the mayor of Bulawayo. We have now a modern steel plant at Manizi. And your town's tradition has got the skills and the tradition of, and the institutional memory of downstream fabrication of steel. Do you know what he answered to me? He says, oh, that plant, it's made by the Chinese. And the Chinese, they are exporting steel to China. I don't want to have anything to do with it. This is the mayor of a town. Now, you all have been to school. You know what is the chemist, the periodic metals list. There is nothing which you see on the periodic elements list, in the periodic element, which says Chinese steel. There's nothing like that. Steel is steel from whichever country it is produced. But here is an attitude coming from the mayor, who is the leader of a town which should be leading in industrialization, denigrating what the president has done at national level to produce steel from the best company possible in the world. He says, so Bulawayo is losing out. The workers of Bulawayo are losing out, and to whom are they losing out? They are losing out to the workers in Zambia who are coming to buy steel from Manizi because they don't consider it Chinese steel or Chinese steel from a Chinese company. They consider it steel. They are losing out to the mayors in South Africa whose lorries you see there. They are coming to buy steel from Zimbabwe to sustain towns in South Africa for their own population, for their workers to have jobs from 7 to 5. Yet in our Bulawayo city, we have the town father, the number one himself, is worship the mayor, saying that I don't want steel from Manis. He hasn't even visited the plant himself to come and see what it is all about. He hasn't. Why? Because he's post-colonial. He has an attitude against the Chinese. In Rhodesia, when we were fighting the war, the weapons came from China. So they had something called the yellow peril, which is a racist description of the threat from China supporting the liberation movement. So anything about China to him is associated with the yellow peril, those communists from China coming to support black guerrillas so that they take away our country, Rhodesia, from us. And remember, he's from the Rhodesian army. He was my adversary. He was the adversary of General Tongogara. He was the adversary of General Chwenga, and all General Shiris and all the others from the old General JZ, the JZs and the Chitepos. He was on the other side of the army, called at 7 in that army. So he has an attitude against China, which not even America is. America is the superpower. You see, they are adjusting now with China how to cooperate. All the modern industrialization of China comes from America. But because of this residual feeling of a post-colonial, he has got a disease called rhodesiasis resist. That is his disease. Anything which is a bearing of progress made by a black man is opposed, because the black man cannot manage modern progress. So Amnangagwa cannot manage to produce a modern steel plant, which is nationally oriented, because he's working with the Chinese. But everyone knows that China produces 70% of the steel in the world. The Chinese Steel Academy is now better than even steel from Germany and Japan. And we have a mayor who should know better in Blawan, the city of modern industry. He is disparaging not only the Chinese for racist reasons, he is denigrating the achievements of the national head of the country president, who has given him a raw material to turn Bulawayo into a vibrant and thriving industrial city, so that the young workers in Bulawayo, female and male, can go to work every day between 7 to 5, so that when you get into Bulawayo, you hear factories, you hear the sound, the churning sound of steel being converted by foundries into rolling stock, into many of the things which make even this building what it is today. Every structure in the world has got steel about it. The mayor of Bulawayo is oblivious to this national achievement which the president has done, which is owing the region, which is owing Africa. We are now going to integrate our steel industry with South Africa, because South Africa is respecting the quality of steel which is coming there, because it makes South African products, including the cars which they produce from BMW, from Mercedes, from Toyota, and very soon from BYD and other Chinese companies. It makes their cars competitive because the quality of steel from Zimbabwe is good. And they are organizing the downstream fabricators of South Africa. They are organizing themselves to come and buy steel from Zimbabwe, from Manis. You look, this is what forward-looking mayors in South Africa are doing, organizing their industrialists to come to Zimbabwe, because we have become the maker of steel, modern steel, because of that plant which the president has put. And where is it quartered? Dabbling in succession of chiefs as if he was elected to go and choose chiefs for Zimbabwe, or he was elected to go and restore secessionist tendencies to divide Zimbabweans, who the president has worked so hard to bring together after the historical remises of Bukra Wundi and the others. He is on a different trajectory, trying to perpetuate divisions among Africans, rather than concentrate on being a mayor with a town called Bulawayo, which can produce products which put Bulawayo on the map as a town. Africans are buying locomotives from China. Africans are buying cars from Japan. Africans are buying all sorts of equipment from Turkey, from elsewhere. We now have an opportunity to be the suppliers of those, because we have the best steel on the African continent, and which should be the leading city in this country to be doing that job, Bulawayo. Because the skills are there. They may now be in their 50s, but they worked in steel plants during the Cisco days. They have the institution. Before they die, give them a chance to pass on those skills to to young people. And the best chance comes from using the steel from Manise to go to Bulawayo, to the foundries, to the die casters and all the other people in Bulawayo, so that we can produce quality products made in Zimbabwe for the global market. Bulawayo becomes not a city of kings and queens only, it becomes a city of industrialists. It becomes a city of excellence by the workers of Bulawayo, producing goods which can be bought by Toyota or which can be bought by Ford. This is what Bulawayo should be doing as a city. But no, it doesn't hit a right chord with our mayor, Mr. Coltart. Dabbling in petty tribal issues of Zimbabwe is what he should be there. So this is painful, and we felt that for the people of Bulawayo, from now onwards, on Workers' Day, they should remember the glory of their city as being the industrial city of Zimbabwe. Because if Bulawayo does not take the lead, it drags down the whole nation. Remember, we need Bulawayo to be vibrant, be throbbing as an industrial city, so that the nation can move forward. That is the duty of the mayor of Bulawayo, not choosing kings and queens and promoting secessionist tendencies. But you see, the reason they are very frustrated. They thought the opposition would unseat the president, but all we know where the position is past. And the kiss of death of the opposition was when their main sponsor, America, pulled out with the closure of USAID. Akuchina mari dzemahara dzokupa vanhu vanokutoda kubvisa hurumende, even vachinyemba kuti tiri kuibvisa vachipiwa mari. Vaingopiwa mari vachinyemba, vapedza 20 years. Hurumende yacho ida kubviswa is in power forever. But it was a job for them to continue to perpetuate the myth that they were removing Zanu PF from power so that America could continue to pay them. Trump says enough is enough, pulls the rug. I can't spend money on a wild goose chase. So he pulls the rug. So Awachina Bas money from USAID. So the opposition is past, it's finished. They looked for divisions within Zanu PF. Now let me tell you something. We cadres of Zanu PF, we are a product of the war. We also think and we can differ. But at the end of the day, we are from the same crucible. Unlike opposition, wekuti vakamutsana havachaonani vanochererana tsoka vachiisirana zvidumwa zvipotswa kuti akafamba nepanapa panhasi chamisa inini mita handibvume totomisira chipotswa nekutochera nzira kuti pamararana achapfuura nenzira inopfuura nemumunda mangu omutera oisa masanzu eminzwa. We in Zanu PF we always find a way to find each other because we come from the struggle. Maybe we may differ one day. So here we are. Hakuna zvinonzi functions muZanu PF anoita kuti Zanu PF iparare, which is the wish, because they felt that Zanu PF could lose by the opposition. So that no, it will implode from within. Waona watadza kuipusha from kunze. Wotaura wakutonamata kuti hameno zvichakuitika mukati munhu vachamutsana. Iwapererwa wanga uri kunze uchipusha. Wakuti vari mukati havamutsani zvokuti uchazoona imba yaparara muZanu PF. Aiwa. Vanomutsana vowanani. This is exactly what is happening in Zanu PF. We always find each other because we traveled a journey. And it is that ethos, that tradition of Zanu PF which makes it last longer. It goes the extra mile when everybody is falling by the wayside. So hakuna opposition, hakuna malfunctions achaita kuti Zanu PF collapse. For your information, the president of Zanu PF has never been so strong. I can tell you, and you can ask vacho vese vari kufungira kuti ndivo vanosvika nepresident vanotaura kuti president is very strong. So taane mupengo inonzi ana Nyokayemabhunu or ana Gambakwe who come from Norway, mapenzi ari kuzvifambira hawo muroad, who use social media to promote the idea that something imminent is going to happen to tomorrow in Zanu PF tomorrow. Makazozviona 31 March papainzi patazara paRobert Mugabe apa vanozoenda kuState House vona munangagwa achimufisa vakapaona haradada pakashama kuti vanhu vemuzimbabwe working hard people, they went to work and said some those who remained at home, they just simply said we have a disciplined country, pamwe kune noise hatingaende kubasa mangwana kana taona kuti hakuna noise mapurisa edu nemasoja vari kutichengeta zvakanaka toenda kubasa, and exactly what they did. So congratulations on Workers' Day to the Zimbabwean workers. They ignored those who are detractors who felt that you could rise and remove the government of President E.D. Mnangagwa either on 31 December or for that matter on any other day. Hakuna zvakadaro. The president is very strong. And we could not have a Politburo meeting because he has dispatched his lieutenants, including the names which are being touted with this president. They are busy promoting Zimbabwe's interest in president's name in Iran, in other diplomatic arenas. So, on Workers' Day, Zanu PF, the president, is very, very strong. He is fully in command of that party. No matter the razzmatazz yamunonzwa pa social media. So we cannot have a Politburo meeting, not because we are afraid of factions. It's because some of the prominent members of the leadership are not in the country. They are out. So we find an opportunity to have a Politburo meeting. It has nothing to do with the concept of factions. This is today, 1 hour ago, a few hours, Zanu PF cancels Politburo meeting. Amid the rising tension. Zipi tension. Those journalists now who are trying, because now they are staffed of USAID funds. Because this was a creation of of USAID funds and all those detractors. You saw even on March 31, Mchangwa was on plane and his wife running away from Nyokayemabhunu nakeza kuti vakuzotora nyika mangwana. Mchangwa atiza usiku tamuona ku airport onai city yake namba 8 mundege. I mean ndiri muno ndiri pembe papa because it was supposed to create the impression, because I'm the spokesperson of the party and because I was prominent in 2017. If you want to create a feeling of euphoria and phobia and fear, you say Mchangwatis, then it was a lie. Makazondoona enda kufamba kutengera vasukuru mabiscuits ndiri pano paHighland Park, asi ndiri kudzira ndiri kupi ndiri kuDubai ndatiza geza naNyokayemabhunu naGamba. So I want you on Workers' Day to restore full pride and patriotic fervor among Zimbabweans, because the workers of Zimbabwe, they were the ones who were the backbone of the resurgence of nationalism. They are the ones who are going to make this country become a world-class country. I know we can have people in the rural areas producing food, but anybody can do that easier, production of food. Production of industrial goods which change the face of humanity, only industry can do it. And which commodity drives industry in any country? Steel. And who has had the excellence to realize the importance of steel and to deliver it on a world-class level to Zimbabwe? Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. He has done it. And he has done it with a big bang that the world is awed. Do you know what's happening in England? The Labour Party to recall its members. Why? They are grappling to restore their steel plant, the scaffold. The last one to manufacture steel in England is closed. They are still grappling now. Good way to say, good way to produce steel. Mnangagwa kunozibva kuti yangu muri kuiona here iyo steel plant. The challenges which the British government is facing about steel, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa and Zanu PF overcome and delivered on steel. By the way, that steel plant which you see on There is nothing like that in Europe in terms of vertical integration and horizontal integration. Nothing. And I know because the German experts from Dortmund came and assessed it. And South African steel buyers who produce goods for world market are saying the steel from Zimbabwe is the best. So the customer and the experts say we are the best. Those are going to President Mnangagwa on Workers' Day. So when you hear his message about his pride about the Zimbabwean worker, remember what he has done for them. And because that town has got enough steel deposits for the next 300 years, you will all wake up on the resurrection and find Mandise going. And if there is an Emerson Mnangagwa street there, it shall be written Emerson Mnangagwa after your resurrection. Because the amount of iron ore which is there, the amount of chrome from the Great Dyke, the amount of coking coal from Oanke, makes it the steel plant which will probably, if we solve the issue of electricity by what's happening in Mozambique, with the gas in Mozambique, if we make the electricity cheaper to produce steel at less than 3 cents per kilowatt hour, even China will take them all because we have the resources. That's why we are now working together with South Africa as integrated brothers. In Mozambique, you saw the president of Mozambique. Congratulations to him. He came and saw what we can do at Zimbabwe International Trade Fair in Bulawayo. And this one was exhibiting there for the first time. He promised that he was coming to come and visit that plant. I know the South African president is coming to visit that plant at some stage because they see and appreciate what their comrade, their neighbor, what their fellow leader, Emerson Mnangagwa, has done for Zimbabwe, for the region, for SADC, and for Africa. This man, this super achiever, is equal to Nyokayemabhunu, vafudzi vemombe, vacheri vembera kuminda, vakuenda kuSouth Africa. Now he's in problems there. He starts with fire, he does things silly here, he runs away to South Africa on false papers. Nasa ari mukoti kuSouth Africa. Abatwa immigration ari right. Saka vakamuorganize vacho vari kuSouth Africa. Anakasukweni, they must be quaking in their shoes, in their pants, because the abuse of South Africa, which they've been doing for some time, South Africa says enough is enough. That's why he's been dragged. You know the courts in Zimbabwe, the courts in South Africa. No one are equal. So please, on Workers' Day, our president has given a statement in appreciation of the working class of Zimbabwe. It has got a great future. It is a hard-working, it's disciplined, it's well-educated. He is doing his best to bring the best capital to come and be applied to by those workers so that they can turn capital in profit by producing world-class goods made in Zimbabwe for the global market. Some South African ex-Zimbabwean, who is a minister there from the DA, says Zimbabwe is pandering to the whites because they are now saying they want to compensate whites. No, we are building trust among and confidence among our citizens, regardless of historical circumstances. The whites who have remained in Zimbabwe are as Zimbabwean as anybody. He was talking yesterday, 2 days ago. We had a fantastic night at the Yara International Conference Center. All the Zimbabwean women from as far as Byte Bridge, they converged, hundreds of them, to fill the HICC center, who were then celebrating Kirsty Coventry, our minister, who is now the IOEC president-elect. They didn't come here because, she's white. They came here because she's a Zimbabwean. This is the nation which we are building, which these men now want to represent, as if when we go to an event about the achieving Kirsty Coventry, we are trying to pander to the whites. No, we are being proud of our multiracial, multifaceted society. And if one of them achieves something, it's the achievement of all Zimbabwe. And those women who came to support my wife, Bam Changwa, as the guest of honor for that event, and the corporates which supported the event, big companies in Zimbabwe supported the event, they are all working for Zimbabwe, the Zimbabwe we want. And the president very soon, in August, I think, because he dispatched me to Cape Town. Do you know whom we were seeing? I was seeing the Stellenbosch business community. Where is Stellenbosch? Because the Afrikaners, their main center of cultural identity is Stellenbosch in South Africa. And what have they produced? They produce some of the best businessmen Africa has ever known. You know of Elon Musk? He comes from the Afrikaner community. He is now a world leader in electric cars. Everybody is following him. Maybe they'll get better of him. He goes into space. All of you have studied. That's Elon Musk. He's originally from South Africa. These are coming from the Afrikaner and their city of identity. It's Stellenbosch. You all know of Johan Rupert. Here, if he shows you, you go and type Johan Rupert, you go into any of the duty-free shops in the world. All you see from Cartier, Montblanc, all the brands which you see are very famous. They are coming from Johan Rupert. You know where his father started business? He started business in Mutare as a tobacco trader, Anthony Rupert. He was the only African who was allowed to trade tobacco by the British. You know the history of tobacco farming after the Second World War. British soldiers, especially officers, were retired from the British Army. But America had a debt to pay America for the weapons. Britain had a debt to pay America for the weapons during the war. That debt was settled on Rhodesia to settle. And how did the British want to settle? It took all the retired, most of the retired officers. They were sent to Zimbabwe to be farmers. That's why racism became very rampant after the Second World War. A lot of decommissioned British officers came to occupy land in Zimbabwe to produce commercial crops, cotton, tobacco, tea, coffee, so that Britain can sell, so that it can settle the debt to America. But these were soldiers who were not farmers. They were in Africa, which was a strange land to them. Whom do they tend to become farmers? Boers, South Africans. That's why after the Second World War, the owners would be white, the Afro-man would be Afrikaners. And we respect African identity with Africa. That's why they call themselves Africa. You see them there. Those red ones are British soldiers. This is the Boer War between 1899 and 1902. Those red ones there, you can see they are wearing red coats. In Africa, fighting red coats. You look at the other ones, well, those are commandos. Those were Afrikaner commandos fighting against the British. Why? Because they were fighting as an identity to Africa, those Afrikaners. They fought an anti-imperialist war against England. We also fought against an imperialist war against England. The only difference between them and us is that they lost the war. And they were forced because their wives were put in keeps. The first keeps in the world were done by Britain against the Afrikaners at Vereeniging in South Africa. That's where the keeps was done. So those commandos in the hills were said, Garaiko, Kwaswakats, Chavaita abuse, Vanavenu Vachafanenza, until you come down to the mountains where you are fighting. That's how the Afrikaners were finally forced to surrender. So they've got an abiding anti-imperialist identity, Afrikaners. So Isustaga go only against the imperialism, actually against the same power. The only tight thing is we won. Now, people who are from your continent, who fought a war against imperialism, there may be many other things afterwards, but the tradition is very strong. And it's better to relate to somebody who is from your continent, who is successful on the global stage. Because the Afrikaners in the world of technology, they've done very well. You know, they started encryption of television images, multi-choice. That technology was from Holland, but it was made popular all over the world, from South Africa by Afrikaners. They went and made the set-top boxes, those ones, in China. And the biggest company in China is called Tencent. It is one of the largest technology companies in the world. The Afrikaners made it in China. It's Kuzbek, if you want to find his name. Kuzbek was a publisher from South Africa, from national papers. So from there, they took the technology to Silicon Valley. They set up a company called PayPal. That's where Elon Musk became rich. They sold payments technology by the phones to the American high-tech industry. So they dominate. A name like Roger Thiel, Sequoia, he's the biggest investor in high-tech in the whole world, this guy. So Zimbabwe is reaching out to the Afrikaners, and I was sent by the president to go and talk to them. And they promised that they will be coming to Zimbabwe in Johannesburg, leading a delegation of Afrikaners, because they are high in technology. They have factories in China, a town called Zhuhai, near Shenzhen. I was ambassador to China. Produces most of the goods, luxury goods which you see in stores, but suitcase, the major investor and buyer of those is that guy, Johan Rupert. They are now thinking that they should come and put their factories in a special economic zone in Manisa. That's why they are coming to Zimbabwe. So charity begins at home. We are telling Afrikaners, if you want to invest, don't think of America, think of Africa. And if you think of Africa, the country which has done most to push the agenda of modernization is Zimbabwe. And what have they done? They've done something which Africa never thought could be done. They've produced the main element of industrialization still in Zimbabwe. So the assurance of growth for Zimbabwe is there, it's shining. And who has done it? It's Emerson Mnangagwa in a short 5 years as the leader of the Second Republic. Dear message that the Taurin has on Workers' Day to say let's revere and appreciate what our leader has done to vault Zimbabwe at the forefront of modern prospects of industrialization, and along with it to attract world-class capital in increasing amounts, so that the diligent, organized, hard-working, educated workers of Zimbabwe can turn that money into profit. Along the way, young people can get jobs from 7 to 5 and create goods which are demanded by the global market and make Zimbabwe a modern, prosperous African nation. That's what the president is there to do. So he spares the cup and the nonsense from Nyokayemabhunu, spares from that. Let's focus on things like monies, because that's what the president has done. I want to thank him. That's my message.
Are there any questions?